Somewhere in this country, someone just dragged a rusty old mower out to the curb for the garbage truck and hauled off more money than it costs to drive a brand new John Deere off the dealer lot. Sounds insane. It isn't. Because a handful of old mower brands built machines so rare and so brutal to bring back to life that the right one will cost you more than a brand new John Deere, sometimes before you've even got it running. Not because they're pretty. Because of what's bolted underneath them. Cast iron, where there's now plastic. Real steel, where there's now stamped tin. And a way of building things nobody's willing to pay for anymore. Most people walk right past these. They see junk, something greasy and heavy that Grandpa never threw out. What they're actually looking at is a machine collectors will chase across 3 states, where a single correct part can cost more than the whole mower's worth. And one of these 4 is down to roughly 50 survivors on the entire planet. Today, I'm showing you 4 of them, 4 vintage mower brands that'll cost you more than a John Deere still sitting in the crate. And at least one is probably rotting in a barn, a garage sale, or a Craigslist post near you right now, marked like it's worthless by somebody who has no clue what they're holding. So before you scroll past the next tired old mower you see, stick with me, because you might be looking at one of these and not even know it. At number 4 sits Cub Cadet's 1961 original, the first machine to wear the name and the one that started a legacy still alive today. Cub Cadet today is a big box brand, but go back to 1961 and Cub Cadet was International Harvester, and the machine they built was called the Original. Literally, that's the model name. Cast iron front axle, cast iron rear end, drive shaft instead of a belt to the transmission, and a build quality that had more in common with a farm tractor than a lawn mower. Then came the 100 series, built from 1963 all the way to 1984, with engines running from 10 horsepower up to 16. Those are everywhere. The 149, built from 71 to 74, is one of the most common ones you'll find, and Haggerty says you can pick up a running one for around $500. So here's the trap. The common ones are cheap and they'll stay cheap. The first year original is a completely different animal, and this is where people get burned. They buy a rough original thinking the name carries the value. I found a collector trying to sell a nicely restored original, deck included, hoping to get $1,200 for it. Other collectors on the same thread told him flat out that number was way too high. That's a restored first-year machine, and the market said it wasn't worth $1,200. Meanwhile, the parts to get there aren't cheap at all. The correct year grill, the right hood, an original deck in usable shape, those are the pieces people part out rather than sell whole, and the correct ones for a 61 don't share with the later 100 series. The engine's the cheap part, and this surprises people. These run Kohler K-Series cast iron singles, and that engine is arguably the most rebuildable small engine ever made. Rebuild kits start around $90 to $110. Machine shop work, boring the cylinder, turning the crank, cutting the valves, runs somewhere in the $35 to $75 range depending on your shop and your region. One guy on a restoration forum did a full parts and machining bill at right around $425, and that included points, condenser, plug, push rod, and a crankcase breather reed valve. $400 to make a 60-year-old engine run like new. That's genuinely one of the great deals in old iron. The money's everywhere else. Correct sheet metal, a straight unrusted deck, tires, seat, decals that match the right production year. And that's before you've paid $1 for the tractor itself. If you want to actually use one, the good news is the Kohler K series has excellent parts support. There are companies that exist purely to make reproduction, pistons, rings, valves, rods, bearings, points, and carburetors for these engines. Maintenance is genuinely simple. Points ignition means no electronics to fail, and you can diagnose most problems with a test light and a feeler gauge. The bad news is everything wrapped around that engine. Hydraulics on the later models, correct decks, and the year-specific trim are what stop restorations dead. Number 3. Wheelhorse. Starting with the early Pond-era machines and the RJ that launched the brand's legacy. Wheelhorse has probably the most loyal following of any brand on this list, and the origin story is the reason Elmer Pond started building small tractors in a barn in 1946. That's it. That's the beginning. The company built hundreds of models over the decades, and collectors care most about anything built before 1986, which is the year Toro bought the company. After that, enthusiasm drops off a cliff. The C-Series, built between 1971 and 1984, are the most plentiful. Those are the ones you see at every swap meet. What collectors actually chase are the early ones, the RJ machines from the late 50s. And if you want the true holy grail, the original Pond ride-away tractors going back to the 40s. Here's the trap, and it's a sharp one. Wheelhorse built so many models that people assume any old Wheelhorse is collectible. The auction record says otherwise hard. That restored 1962 model 702 I mentioned, $550. The restored 64 model 604, $495. Both restored. Both garage kept. Both sold for less than a set of decent commercial mower tires. And at that same auction, a 1958/59 RJ 58 with fenders and an older restoration went through the ring too. Even the RJ, the model everybody points at as the collectible one. I've seen a nicely done RJ 58 with a plow sitting around the $1,200 mark. That's the good stuff, and it's still nowhere near a new Deere. So how does restoring one cost more than $2,600? Same way as the rest, not the engine, not the common parts, the correct early sheet metal, and the year-specific pieces. Early Wheelhorse hoods, correct grills, and original decks for the 50s machines get traded between collectors rather than sold on open marketplaces. And when they do surface, the guy holding it knows exactly what he's got. This is the practical pick of the 4 if you want something to actually mow with. Wheelhorse built these things absurdly heavy. Cast iron transmissions, real steel frames, and the aftermarket for C-Series parts is still healthy. Attachments are plentiful and cross-compatible across a lot of models within a series, which is a genuine advantage. Where you get in trouble is mixing eras. A part off a 78 C-Series will not bolt onto a 58 RJ. Collectors call this out constantly, and beginners ignore it constantly. Number 2. Copar Panzer, the rarest machine on this list. And its scarcity can be traced back to a bankruptcy that nearly erased it from history. In 1953, a man named James Clark was working as an engineer at the Arunt Instrument Company in College Park, Maryland. Arunt wasn't a farm equipment outfit. They built precision electronic and electromechanical navigation and gun control devices. Clark designed a garden tractor on the side and pitched it to his employer. By the end of 1953, they'd hand-built a prototype. Employees ran a contest to name the thing, and Panzer won. They took it to the Garden Supply trade show in New York in early 1954. It got real attention, and Arendt decided to go into the tractor business. They formed a company called Copar for College Park, and started building them. Now here's the number that matters. Roughly 350 Model A tractors were built in 1954 before production moved out of College Park. Of those 350, the Panzer Tractor Owners Club knows of about 50 that still exist. Then it gets worse. Copar sold out to Virginia Metal Crafters in 1960. Panzer became part of Jackson Manufacturing in 1970, and in 1971, the whole thing was closed as part of a bankruptcy. Dandy Sales bought the remaining parts and the patterns, and that's who kept these machines alive. So when you need a part for a Panzer, you're not going to a dealer, you're going to a specialty outfit that bought a bankruptcy's leftovers in 1971, or you're going to a Facebook group, a niche forum, or a swap meet, and you're hoping. The engineering is genuinely wild, and it's also the problem. Early Panzers were belt-driven with Briggs and Stratton engines, and they switched to Kohler power in the early 60s. Wide wheelbase, low center of gravity, so they were stable and easy to run. Automotive-style steering and transmission components. And here's the part collectors love telling. They used Dodge car rear ends, pulled from scrapyards, which means you genuinely don't know what gear ratio you've got until you drive it. One longtime owner said you'll occasionally run across one with a limited slip in it. That's not a design spec. That's whatever was in the junkyard that week. The Model A also uses 3 different belts to control speed, and you have to shut the tractor off to change speeds. That's not a flaw. That's 1954. Rarity cuts both ways. There's real collector demand, but the survivor count means a specific broken casting can end a restoration permanently. Not delay it, end it. That jackshaft casting on a genuine Model A is marked with the model designation and College Park cast right into the iron. That's how you verify you've got the real early one, and it's also a part you cannot simply order. The Briggs and Kohler engines are the easy part. Everything Panzer specific is the hard part. There's a real market here too. One specialty seller lists things like a Model A described as one of the first 300 built, and a T70B that's been repainted but needs finishing with the original Briggs engine and motor plate. Number 1. John Deere, led by the 1963 round fender 110, and yes, the irony behind its place on this list is exactly the point. The 110 was John Deere's first lawn tractor, and 1963 was its first year, which is exactly why collectors on the forums call the round fender the holy grail of Deere garden tractors. Roughly 1,000 were built that year, and plenty have been lost in the 60-plus years since. Start with what an ordinary one costs so you can see the gap. A later flat fender 110, good running condition, with a deck sits around $400 to $500. Add a snow thrower, and that's another $250. A front blade, another $120. A 65 round fender in decent shape with a blade and deck. Collectors valued one at $500 to $700. Non-runners climb from there. One dealer listed a complete, non-running, all-original round fender with a snow blade at $750, $950 with the wheel weights, and those weights alone were $250. That's the ordinary market. Now the 63. Collectors tracking 63 specific parts have watched an original 1963 mower deck sit on eBay at around $1,100 for roughly 2 years. The starter generator cover, one single piece, can go for over $500. Reproduction, Fiberglass fenders run about $350, and one longtime collector says he's never once seen a set of originals come up for sale. That's $1,950 in 3 parts. And you haven't bought the tractor, haven't touched the engine, haven't bought a tire, a decal, a seat, a battery, or a single quart of paint. Now add the machines to build from. One collector paid $1,000 for a restorable 63, then another $1,000 for a 63 non-runner just to get the correct deck. So, $2,000 for the tractors, $1,950 in 3 correct parts, $425 for a proper Kohler rebuild with machine work, $4,375, and there's still no paint on it. A brand new S100 is $25.99, and it gets stranger because there's a paper trail. A water-damaged, 1-page 1963 sales brochure, not the tractor, a single sheet of wet paper about the tractor, sold on eBay for over $650. A partially complete 63 in pieces, listed at $4,000 and sat a long while. Here's the gut punch. The asking prices on finished ones look great. A fully restored 63 shown at the 50th anniversary event in Horicon, Wisconsin, was advertised at $6,000. Another local one opened just under $6,000 and got walked down to $4,500 after a few months. But asking isn't selling. A collector who actually closed the deal said he got under $2,000 for a restored, working 63. Part support is genuinely split. For general 110 components, outfits like Steiner tractor parts stock new aftermarket pieces, and the ordinary stuff is cheap. A starter solenoid runs about $32, a used PTO engagement assembly about $50, and the Kohlers fully rebuildable. The killer is year-specific correctness. A 63 is not a 65, and collectors spot wrong year graphics, an incorrect deck, or a non-original seat instantly. The value of a restored 110 collapses the second someone notices it's wearing the wrong parts. One thread valued a heavily modified 110 at $300, purely because the mods took it away from correct. So which one's actually worth it? If you just want to mow, buy the new Deere 2600. Warranty? Done. That's not a cop-out, it's just true. And anybody who tells you different is selling something. If you want to restore one because you love the process, the smart pick isn't the expensive end of this list. It's a common Wheelhorse C Series or a Cub Cadet 100 Series. Running examples run around $500, parts support is real, the Kohlers a joy to work on, and a full restoration lands in that $1,500 to $2,000 range Hagerty quotes. You'll actually finish it, and that matters more than people think. But if you want the 63 Deere or the Panzer, go in with your eyes open. You're buying a project that'll cost more than a new tractor and sell for less than half of what you put in. That's not a bad decision. Plenty of great hobbies lose money. If you've got receipts that say I'm wrong on any of these, drop them in the comments. I'll read everyone, and if I got something wrong, I'll say so in the next video. And if there's one of these rotting behind your garage right now, tell me which brand. I want to know how many of you are about to find out the hard way.